Today on Adversity to Strength, I have Gloria Vanderhorst. Gloria has got a very interesting story. She speaks as a psychologist who spent her career exploring the emotional lives of men, what happens when boys are taught to hide their feelings from an early age. Her career began with work with young children, noticing how boys were often misunderstood and labeled as hyperactive when really they were struggling to express emotion in a world that doesn't make space for it. That insight led to Gloria to work with fathers, helping men reconnect with their emotions, their families, and themselves. Now, through her writing and therapy practice, helping men break free from the cultural messages that limit the emotional growth using powerful approaches like internal family systems and emotional focus. This conversation dives deep into masculinity, emotional health, and what it takes to build a stronger, more authentic relationship. Gloria, thanks ever so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you, Lee, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. That covers the landscape.
Well, I'm pleased to hear it. Take us back to the beginning for your journey. Where did it all start for you? Because it sounds like it was a long one.
It's been a very long but very satisfying journey. And I think the best place to start is in college because I was in college devoted to being a math teacher. I loved math. I was good at math, and I was on track to graduate with a degree in math in 3 years with a straight A average, right? So think of that, right, as a powerful
Oh,
expectation and a goal that you set for yourself. And then I ran into Calculus 2 with a professor that faced the blackboard, wrote with her right hand, erased with her left, filled the blackboard, and just kept going, never turned around and talked to the class. Everyone's totally lost. We're gathering, trying to teach ourselves Calculus 2. We're not really good at it. But we persist, do the best that we can. And I end up getting a D in that class. So think for a moment, right? I have a 4.0 average. I'm on track to graduate with straight A's. I get a
yeah.
D on my record. I get a D, right? Totally shameful, very embarrassing, but also incredibly helpful because immediately I stopped focusing on math, switched my major and my minor, and my minor was psychology. I was doing that as a relief from math. It was fun. It was interesting, right? It was enjoyable. And I have never looked back. Ever since then, I have been diving into psychology. And when I started my private practice, I knew a friend who ran a preschool. And if you're familiar with preschools, most of
Yeah.
them are staffed by women. Women
Yes.
as teachers, right, are comfortable with little girls and worried about little boys. Little boys have more energy, typically, than little girls do. Little boys take a little bit longer to follow the directions. Little boys bump into each other and cause a ruckus.
Mhm.
So preschool teachers would refer little boys out for psychological evaluations, educational evaluations to identify, what's wrong with this little boy that he can't stand in line. Now, I know you have boys, so maybe in your history you experienced some of that when they were young as well, so that they might be a little bit more active, might get a little bit more attention from the teacher because they're kind of not as compliant as the little girls. And so my practice just filled with evaluating little boys. And they gave me an education in what it is like to be a little boy in this world, because many of them were not attention deficit disordered. They were just normal, healthy boys, right? And we know now that developmentally, boys are behind girls.
Yeah.
Girls socialized easier, faster, younger. Boys explore, right? They're curious, they investigate, and little girls are willing to follow the directions and follow the rules. So I got super educated by all the little boys that I evaluated. That led to their fathers being interested in examining themselves.
Yeah.
So
How did you get them to do that? Because usually
I
it's the
didn't.
kid,
The
you know?
interesting part is that I didn't, all right? But as their boys were being evaluated and they were given feedback about strengths and weaknesses of their boys, many of these men became really curious about themselves. Some of them did have attention deficit, and they wanted to know more of how to relate to that in their lives. Some of them just had kind of the social discomfort of I'm not quite sure how to interact with this world. I want to do a better job. I want to advance in my career. I just want to figure out how to work in this world and how to fit in, whether it's socially or professionally. And my calendar filled with adult men. And that was a real education.
When, how long ago was that?
That was really, let's see, I've been in practice now for 50 years, believe it or not. And that was at least 30 years ago.
It's a long time ago. It's a lot
It's
for
a very
it
long time ago.
sounds like it's new, but
It
30 years
is,
ago,
it
ahead.
is new. It is new because the research that
Yeah,
we have done on males, right, is rich, but it is not well known.
no.
The research is housed within the profession, but it doesn't trickle out into the common information. But we
Why
know a
is that?
ton of things about boys.
Yeah, why
Why
is
is
that?
that? That's a really good question. I think the culture is resistant to being educated about boys. We have an expectation, and we've had an expectation for millions of years. All right, that men are brave. Let's, take the normal caveman.
Yeah.
They are brave, they are courageous, they're willing to risk themselves in
Mhm.
order to protect the female and the children. And
Mm.
we have used that for centuries.
Yeah. I mean, but that's right. And I'm totally agreeing. And I'm old school that thinks a guy should look after a woman, keep her safe, that kind
Right?
of thing. But if you're defending your wife against the saber-toothed tiger, as a therapist, I'm like, yeah, there could be some trauma after that. Now you might do your job and save that
Right.
woman, but it's going to come at a consequence. You're not going
Right.
to get away with that unscathed. I think
Right.
that's the bit that's missing. You can't just get on with things.
You
You got
can't.
unresolved issues and trauma, and I think that's the misconception with people that's gone on in the past.
I think you are right on target, all right? And the evidence is so clear. If we look at men coming back from war, any war,
Yeah,
right, for centuries, all right,
yeah.
there's this code of silence that they are not to process the experiences that they had in war. They are to box those up as though they don't have any impact, they don't have any influence. And, it's like it seeps out. You can't keep it in the box.
Absolutely. I mean, you would be familiar with the body keeps the score, and that's a big part of that's about the Vietnam War. But you've got like, I've even got books on it about World War One and shell shock in World War One, and to try and tell people to just block it out, it's just the worst advice in the world. It's like trying let's put that fire out by putting some petrol on it.
That's exactly what it does. But we've done that, all right? We do tell our soldiers returning from war to get over it, to forget about it. We don't even do the right thing to engage them and the necessary therapy and rehabilitation that would be reasonable to do for someone who's been shell shocked or terrified or lost a limb, right?
Yeah.
We'll do the physical that's required, but we are not good at doing the emotional that's required to facilitate healing and understanding because we have this expectation that men are strong,
Yeah.
right? They don't need emotional attention. They're strong.
I mean, I have a regular conversation, especially with new clients, where guys come to me. You probably had this yourself, where a guy's come to you and you're like, "So what are you here for?" And they burst into tears. I've
Mhm,
had that
mhm.
so many times. And they all say the same things, almost word for word, that they want to be strong in its weakness. And I have to explain to them they've got it around the wrong way. And you
Mhm.
looking for help, admitting that you're struggling, that is your strength. With a lot of my clients, they realize it very quickly that it makes sense and it's okay, as they say, to not be okay. I'm guessing you found similar results.
Absolutely. And the truth is, right, that our boys are born with a broader range of emotional expression than girls,
Is that
right? So
right?
think of that. I mean, that's got to be like explosive knowledge. Boys come into the world with a broader range of emotional expression than girls do. And then what we do as a culture is that we tell them to
Take
narrow
it
that
away.
and narrow that
Take it
and
away
narrow
from
that and narrow that until they're in this tiny little range of these are the acceptable feelings that you can explore as a male. It's ridiculous. And obviously, it's irritating for me that we do that to our boys. It just doesn't make sense, particularly for the long run, because as the culture advances, we have historically had more and more time for social interaction,
you.
more and more time for interpersonal connection, right? We're not out working in a field 10 hours a day anymore. We're interacting with each other. So that interpersonal requirement for us puts men at a huge disadvantage. One of the reasons that our jails are filled with men is that very thing, right? We rob men of the opportunity to be able to engage in social interactions and express their thoughts and feelings. We train them not to do that.
Yeah.
And so when they get frustrated, irritated, can't really express something that they're feeling passionately, they use their bodies or they use weapons.
Yeah. And you can see how the cycle carries on if they've
Mhm,
learnt that from their father and similar circumstances. I had a guy, a guest on here. He used to be an ex prison guard in America,
mhm,
and he's now helping kind of rehabilitate men into not into society to but be better fathers, better
mhm,
people.
mhm,
And he said the same thing. These guys, their emotions are all blocked out. A lot of it is because of obviously their circumstances and surroundings. But
mhm.
he said you just see these big grown men start to crack, and then it
Right.
just all these emotions come out. And I
Mhm.
deal with that with clients that's got trauma. They've not been able to show emotions for years. It's blocked out. And I sort of joke. I said, if I've got a client that starts crying, I'm really happy because it means
Yes.
that you're ready to deal with it and your emotions are no longer being numbed out. That's a good
Right.
sign. So
Mhm.
I
That's
do
a
go on
very
about
good
that
sign.
a lot, that your emotions are ever. I said it's part of us. We need emotions to survive, to interact.
That's right. And we're going to need it more and more, all right? As more free time is available to us, we'll have more social interactions. But the root, if we go back to infancy and the fact that boys are born with a broader range of emotional expression, you have to ask, what happens, right? How did that get narrowed down for them?
Do you think it's in the same way where when you've got kids and they got all these aspirations of like I want to be an astronaut, I want to be an airline pilot, and then you see people working in like your 7-Elevens and or whatever, and it's like where did these ambitions die? Where did they go? Who
Mhm,
knocked them out of those kids? Somebody
mhm,
somewhere. Is it
mhm.
culture? Is it where's the answer? So I wonder if that's similar something similar has gone on there.
Oh, it is. If we go back to the very beginning, there's a natural consequence for boys, and that is that most infant boys interact mainly with women, mothers or nannies, right, or caretakers that are female, and females do not have the same range of emotional expression that boys do.
Yeah.
Infants are brilliant. Their only survival mechanism is reading the emotions in the environment around them. That's their survival mechanism. They're brilliant at it.
Yeah.
I tell people, if you want to figure out who to go into partnership with, bring all these people together, pass a baby around the room, right? And the baby will be relaxed in somebody's arms. Pass it to another person, the baby will start to fuss a little bit. Pass it to another person, and the baby will start to cry. There is nothing wrong with the baby. The baby
Mm.
has just read the room for you and said the first person is safe. The second person is a little okay, but you might have to be working with them and be vigilant. The third person, never go into business with that person. That
Yeah.
person's not trustworthy, not safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
infants are brilliant at reading emotion. So when a boy goes to a higher level of emotional expression, gets kind of more excited and a little wilder than what mother is comfortable with, she changes her facial expression. She changes her posture. She does something to communicate, wow, right? That's unfamiliar to me. I'm not comfortable up there. And the infant, in his brilliance, reads that correctly and decides, okay, not going up there anymore. Same thing true as with going down to the negative end of the emotional range, right? Mother's not comfortable, nanny's not comfortable, so I'm not going there anymore. So the infant male narrows the range appropriately for the environment. This is survival. I want to be taken care of. So I'm going to express emotion in the range that my caretaker is comfortable and safe with. So we do it unconsciously. We do it without even recognizing that it's happening for a boy. So before they can even walk, their range has been narrowed.
That makes sense. And also, for me as a therapist, I always say that it's essential that children growing up have both parents, because if
Mhm.
you it doesn't matter if you've got like a, say, an absent father. It
Right.
doesn't matter how amazing the mum is, she can't make up for an absent parent in
That's
whatever
right.
context there. For guys, for boys, for me, it's essential to have a strong male role model. And if it's not the father, then there's a problem.
It, it needs to
It,
be someone else. Absolutely.
yeah, it's vital.
Right.
I grew up with no
Mhm. A model.
male
Mhm.
role model. I'll get there.
Yeah.
And the only person there that was there was just awful. It was everything that you wouldn't want. And so I had to kind of learn it myself. And I think the years that it cost me trying to
Right.
figure stuff out, and even now I'm still trying to
Hmm.
figure it out there. Whereas if I'd had a strong role model and a male role model in my life, that
It
would have
would
made
be
all the
different.
difference. So I look at how my sons, I've done all the things that I didn't have and try to improve on it. And it does help being a therapist. It does give you a lot to work with.
Mhm.
I can, how they've gone, how they're achieving and actually listen to things they do and that kind of thing. Now, I've never forced any interests on them that I have, but they've
Right.
all got their own interest from me as well as their own ones there as well. So I take that as a real positive sign.
What I like is that adult men tend to have a wider range of acceptance for emotional expression. They have more tolerance than the adult female does. And I'll give you
Yeah.
a personal example. My granddaughter in kindergarten had a male teacher, and they were doing finger paints, right? So you get a big piece of paper and you get all these finger paints, and she's working on the page, and then she starts to work on the table, right? She fingerprints down the table, and then she goes down the table leg. Fortunately, the kindergarten teacher was a male. because he never stopped her, right? He let her spread those finger paints any
Mm.
place she wanted to go. I'm certain if the teacher had been a female, she would have been confined to the page. So men have this willingness to be more open, more tolerant of exploration than women do. And then we come to the culture itself, because once we put that baby on its feet and it's walking around and interacting with the culture, there's another layer that comes on top for the male. And I say to people, go to a playground, watch for this. Right? A little girl will get hurt. She'll run up to mom or dad. She gets picked up and asked what happened. Little
Mhm.
boy, same thing, gets hurt, runs up to mom or dad. He gets asked what happened. If he gives a good enough answer, he'll get picked up and receive comfort. But most of the time, he will get turned around and just, okay, go back and play. You're okay. Nothing wrong with you. You're not bleeding. Just go back and play.
Yeah.
So the way that we treat and socialize our boys is sends a powerful message that your feeling states are not really welcome here, right?
Yeah.
Bury them. Keep them to
Yeah.
yourself.
I remember even like growing up as as a kid in the 80s, sort of 70s and 80s, and I can remember being treated different. All the boys were the same from where I was from,
Hmm.
and if certain things happen to a boy, like whatever, you get on with
Right.
that. And with girls, it's like, okay, hold on, it's the same outcome. What's and I remember sort of subconsciously thinking that, but because you don't know anything different, you just accept it because you're a boy. That was your answer, because you're a boy.
You're a
Okay, all right.
boy.
What now? It's like, well, hold on a minute. Why is that? Can I come all the way back and have that answer that question?
Right. And I don't think that you would, if looked around, you would not find adults saying to a girl, you're a girl, right? But
I
you're a
think it.
boy that accept it
I
is
think
common.
back in the I think back in the day, it would be with a girl. There would certainly be certain things because obviously, if you go all the way back, there's women are discriminated against for certain things that men can do but women can't do. And it's like I think remember like girls wanting to play football. No,
Right.
boys play football, girls netball or whatever. And
Right.
you well, hold on, So,
Mhm.
but yeah, I think when it comes to like sort of sex wise, there was certainly a big, and I do get there. There are certain things that you are going to be treated differently on there as well. But there are certain things where you could sort of think, well, that's a bit harsh on a guy. Why
Mhm.
is he suffering or missing out or being treated in
Right.
that way when
Right.
he's just a kid, you know?
Yeah. So the male's emotion is targeted as a negative part of the self. And that's why you will have adult men coming into your office and bursting into tears because there's
Oh,
never been a safe place.
yeah, it's years. Yeah, yeah. And I've had that, and they're like, Lee, this is the only place I can talk. And I was like, that's
Mhm.
fine. And because I'm very blunt, I'm to the point. I'm literally no different talking to a client as I am to yourself, to a friend in
Mhm.
the pub,
Right.
So they feel, well, actually, if this guy is kind of okay with it, then maybe it's okay for me. Once they start talking, they don't stop. It's
Right.
years coming out week after
Mhm.
week, week after week. And I
Mhm.
find that they go from kind of like the skeptical to the converted, and they often
Mhm.
make the best progress because they can feel the
Absolutely.
difference. And a lot of that is just off. I get a lot of I've had a lot of clients in general, but also a lot of guys where first session in therapy, what are you here for? Burst into tears, take a breath, tell me what you're here for. And they will offload for the entire session. I'm like, well, we're at the end now. I've said two words. And they're
Mhm.
like, you're a miracle worker, Lee. I feel absolutely amazing. What did you do? And I'm like, I just nodded at you.
I listen.
I listened. That was it. Same time next week. Get it all the time, which is, it's a good feeling. But then I'll point it out to them. I said, that's the power of actually talking about your feelings and emotions that you've had built up for years. How do you feel? I feel like a
Right.
weight's lift.
Absolutely. I have this list of feelings. It's 3 pages, 3 or 4 columns of feeling words on each page. And I give that out, and it's amazing. All right. Because your brain knows what you're feeling. You cannot say it, but you can recognize it. So when a guy reads through, just scans through the feeling list, these words will just pop out, right? I'm feeling irritated. I'm feeling put down. I'm feeling disgusted, right? I'm feeling demoralized. Words that they would not even normally have in their vocabulary. Their brain can recognize this is the feeling experience I'm having in this situation. So I love to encourage guys to understand that you have not lost access to feelings. They're all packed up there. Your brain knows what your feeling experience is. The culture has put a door on that room and said, hey, you're not supposed to go in there. But you can open that door and you can find the feeling states that you've been experiencing. You can announce them and you can
Yeah.
work with them.
It's definitely, certainly a culture thing because I've had so many clients, guys come to me, struggle with their emotions and they're getting upset, they're feeling bad, they're feeling guilty, they're embarrassed, they're getting upset.
Hmm.
"Oh, I shouldn't get upset. A guy shouldn't show his emotions." I'm like, "Why?" And they're like,
Hmm.
"Well, you shouldn't." I said, "Says who?" And they're like,
Hmm.
"Well, you just don't." I said, "Well, who has told you?" I've already got an answer. If it's come from their
Right,
parents, I can then justify why you should do it. But it's very common when I say, "Well, who's told you you can't show your emotions?"
right.
And nobody's actually ever said it to them.
Hmm.
We're caught up in the society and belief
Right.
system,
The
just
entire
assume that's it.
culture has advertised it from the
And
very beginning.
I see recently as a scientific experiment how you can manipulate people around you. Like, it's like, we can like the whole COVID thing, we can manipulate a nation just by conforming. And they
Right,
got this guy, he was just a regular guy that's come into the lift, and they got like 4 or 5 people that's on the experiment. And when you're in the lift, you tend to just come in the lift, turn around, and you face the door.
right.
These people come in the lift with the guy, he's facing the door, they all
And
face
they're
one of the
facing
walls.
it.
Yeah. That
Right,
guy looked round and he realized everyone else is doing that. And he did the same. He did it a few times and he kept repeating that. So
right.
people, they go, I feel like I'm really intelligent tonight. So a lot of people, a lot of people will just automatically go with it because they think that's what you do without questioning it. So it's not until you come to a therapy session or speak to somebody like yourself, you go, yeah, why am I doing that? Why have I
Right.
done that? I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, and that opens up a whole new world for a guy,
Yes,
right?
yes, it
To
does.
understand that I can have access to every feeling known to man, right?
Yeah,
None of them are this, kept away from me. I can have access to any feeling, and it's so freeing and it's so validating.
it is. I know from my own experience, I'm diagnosed as CPTSD for my childhood
Mhm.
trauma. And when I first started therapy, I can't remember the last time I cried. Can't remember the last, apart from like anger,
Right.
I can't remember the last time I felt real emotions. And my therapist was amazing. She helped me. All these things come back, and we're working on this and working on that. And she helped me unlock all of my emotions. Walking around for years feeling numb. And I find it quite funny, but I'm so glad. And I'll sort of tell the story to clients that all my emotions come out and suddenly you're in a therapy session, you got floods of tears and stuff. But the thing is, and it's quite funny because like now I can watch a film that I've seen a million times, like planes, trains, and
Uh-huh.
automobiles. All right.
Right. Right.
And I've seen it like, and then I was watching it like a couple of years ago, and I'm in floods of tears at the end. And I'm
Right.
like, are you kidding me? And I find that there would be like something that's come on, and it's not even like that upset, and my emotions are there, literally
Hmm.
to the surface. They're so sensitive
Yeah,
compared
you
to.
have
I'm like,
access. Right.
I'm there going, are you kidding me? I'm getting upset over this, but I kind of wouldn't swap it because it's really important to have those emotions, and for me, it's worth it just to explain it to clients. So
Mhm.
that's absolutely fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's human, right? You're a guy,
yes.
you're supposed to have access to this full
Mm.
range of emotions. I'm sorry the culture has taught you that you shouldn't, and you've followed those directions in order to survive. But now look, right? You have access to feelings, and guess what? You're still surviving, right? You're still
Still,
accepted. You're still in
it's
relationship. Nobody's running, screaming from the room.
well, for me, it has the opposite effect. People are more inclined to want to be around you because you've got more to offer. You can
That's
show
right.
emotion, you can show empathy, you can show
Right.
people sympathy. Whereas
Right.
before, you might have been tunneled vision, very
Hmm.
self-centered. You're focused on yourself there as well. So I
Hmm.
do think that it is 100% beneficial. I think
It's
you
super.
can do extremes where, in the world we're in today, where everyone is so fragile, or whatever, people could then get upset and go from one extreme to the other. But let's stick with a happy medium somewhere.
But then I will say to you that
Mm.
in my experience, when a man does access that full
Hmm.
range of feelings, the woman has difficulty with that. She's
I've
not
seen that.
used to that. She's
Yeah.
not comfortable with that, even
Mm.
though for a long time she said, gosh, I wish my husband, right, had more feelings, or I wish he would
Yeah.
share more of what he's feeling and experiencing. And I will always give this example, which is, the guy comes home from work and he's obviously distressed. And the wife asks, well, what happened today? And he gives the one or two sentence, I was in this meeting, I had this great idea, and so shut me down. And the woman will say, gosh, I'm so sorry. I think it'll be better tomorrow. Right? She will close the door on engaging in any communication that goes into deeper feeling states because she doesn't know what to do
Yeah.
with a guy who has feelings. She
Yeah.
wants them, all
Hmm.
right? But basically, she wants him to pay attention to hers, and she doesn't know what to do with a guy who's expressing
Yeah.
feelings and needs to be able to pursue those and talk about them.
It's one of the things I encourage is for clients to do couples counseling. I think it's really important when it comes to relationships. Even if your relationship's good, I'd have to say have a few sessions of couples counseling because then you
Right.
can understand what somebody requires and needs and kind of
Mhm.
understand that. Otherwise, you're not aligned. I find that there's some women that are brilliant. They've put the work in. They actually understand, the difference in a guy, how they work there as well. But I've seen it a lot of times where for a man to admit his emotion, and I've seen sort of like videos and studied that where
Mhm.
a guy wants to show his emotions. He's really upset. He's feeling overwhelmed, and he goes to tell his wife. He's explaining something to his wife, and he's
Mhm.
actually starting to say, and she's not saying anything, and he's finished saying it, and it took a lot for the guy. You could feel
Yeah,
that. You could feel
right.
the emotion, and then she's gone. Why are you wearing that baseball cap today?
Yeah,
You
right.
look
Go
really,
someplace
and
else
and he,
completely.
and then the guy's just gone, and then she's like gone on about you don't look very smart today or something. So he's just
Right.
walked off, and I'm like, now this is the reason why a lot of guys will not come out and speak and use their
Correct.
emotions because when they do, they're shut
Correct.
down like that, they're dismissed.
Yeah, so all the women who get together and complain that their husbands don't share and that they wish their husbands had better access to their emotions, you need to listen to this. You're responsible for shutting them down. You want it, but you want it only cognitive, intellectually. You want it emotionally. You don't have a clue about
Yeah,
what to do with it. All
yeah.
right. So you have to take responsibility for that and educate yourself on what do you
I
do
think
with
I
emotion?
think a lot of it is it's almost like it's a throwaway comment. Okay, what actually do you want from it? What would you want them to be? A lot of people wouldn't be able to tell. I don't actually know. But yeah, some people are really good at it. If you've got a good couple where they talk, they check in with each other. How you
Mhm.
feeling today? I'm
Right.
feeling at 30%. Don't worry, I'm at 70%. So we're still meeting that 100%. How you feeling? Yeah, I'm struggling with work. What's going on at work? Yeah,
Mhm.
okay. And I always tell clients, don't look for advice. If you need to speak to somebody, whether it's a partner or friend, don't look for advice. The advice tends to be wrong. Nobody needs to solve a problem for you, and nobody needs to
Right.
tell you it's all going to be all right. If you're having a bad day at work scenario, you just need somebody to talk to.
Right.
That's all you need
Look for
tomorrow.
safety, right? You
Yeah.
just need
Just,
safety so
yeah,
that you can talk,
yeah.
so that you can run through what you're experiencing, what's happened, what are you feeling, what are your options, what do you want to do? You'll figure it out. As human beings, we're pretty smart people. right? We can figure it out.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm confident that it is going in the. I mean, how have you found that? You're the expert on it, but I've found that obviously it's hit and miss. I find it there's certainly like a large area where men and women are more in tune with how their partner's feeling. But I
Hmm.
also find there's like, and people might argue with me, but there's a younger generation where you've got a percentage that are really more in tune with each other's feelings and personality. And then you've got like, I've seen it a million times on like your Instagram videos where there's a type of woman that will just dismiss a guy and
Hmm.
expect everything back, that
Hmm.
kind of thing,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah, the social science research will tell us that there is growth in the emotional expression for teenage boys. They have more access to feeling states than the previous generation did.
Mm.
And so that's really encouraging. At the same time, if you look at young people today, and actually it flows into 20s and 40-year-olds, people are communicating with each other through text. They're using their smartphones, right? We know that more than 90% of communication is nonverbal. I can numerous times, all right? I've been someplace where I'll see two teenagers sitting next to each other, both of them very active on their phones. And if you ask them, all right, who are you texting? They're texting the person sitting next to them,
Yeah.
right? They're not talking to that person. So you're losing 90% of the value of communication and turning it all into words. Words can get misunderstood so
Oh,
easily.
when I've got clients that are like they're breaking up with their partner or whatever, and I'm like, don't send a text message. I said you
Right,
could send the same message and interpret it 100 different ways. None of them's going to
right,
be good. But you're
right.
so right. A few years ago, when my oldest son was, I think he was about 10 or 11, he had a birthday party, and about 8 or 9 of his friends come round. First thing they asked for, what is the Wi-Fi code?
Oh,
I,
wow.
I was expecting kids a free for all and kids keep the
Right.
noise.
Yeah, right, right,
They're all sat round in the living room, and it made me feel old. And they've got their heads down, and
right.
they're all on their phones.
And on their phone. That's
Is
horrible.
this birthday party an absolute disaster?
Right. It's horrible.
So
They had a great time.
this is the thing. I kept out of it. On like sort of like few days later, and I said to my son, I said, "At your birthday party, everyone have a nice time." But yeah, they all really liked it. They had a great time. I was like,
Everybody's talking about it at
yeah.
school.
But I was like, but all you did was sit there on your phones. Yeah, but we was all like playing the same game. And I was like, okay, what do I know? I'll leave you to it. But it's like, I find it insane, which makes me sound really old. But social media is the complete opposite to what it actually is. To me,
Right. It
social
isn't
is
social.
let's all gather around together and let's have a conversation sort of thing. And that's social.
Right.
Now, messaging a conversation with somebody, thousands of miles away that you don't know you're never going to meet, just could be a profile picture. It's not really,
Not
socialized.
really a connection.
No, in
Right.
human nature, I'd say it's
Mhm.
really quickly. I had a client, he's a young lad, 18. I've got clients all over the world. He's in some like Netherlands or somewhere. He was talking about 3 or 4 best friends. And after about a month,
Hmm. They're in different countries, aren't they?
I was like, are these friends just all online? He went, yeah. I was
Hmm.
like, have you ever met any of them? No. I said, well, you're saying they're best friends? Yeah. Okay, right. I'm getting a picture. I said, any of these friends, have you got any friends outside of your bedroom online? No. I said, well, why don't you go out and meet some real people, real life? The guy had no confidence to do it. He's like, I
No.
can't face that, none
Right.
whatsoever. Confident online, but going out there, I dread. And I was like,
Right.
we're designed to be in a tribe. Designed
We
to be
are.
around other
Right.
people, and to isolate
Mhm.
ourselves is just terrible.
Right. It is terrible. We are designed to be connected and to interact with others. All right. And that's why more than 90% of communication is nonverbal. It's the way that we look, it's the way that we posture, it's the way that we move that communicates so much about our relationship to the person that we're talking to. And The other thing that we know as fact is that our communication actually increases our health, right? It
Well,
has a health benefit to be
yeah,
connected and to communicate. It can reduce heart disease, right? It
yeah,
could stave off diabetes. I mean, think of it, but not if it just comes through your cell phone.
no.
It needs to engage your entire body. We don't do
This is
that anymore.
this is one of the well, there's several reasons for doing a podcast. One, obviously, it's a mental health podcast. I wanted it to be interesting. I wanted to hear people's adversity and stories and expertise, and I wanted people to be able to relate to the
Hmm.
adversity, educated, feel inspired, and
Hmm.
that's how it's worked. And it's done amazing, and it's growing there as well. But
Good.
for me personally, I absolutely love talking to people. I mean, I worked in
Hmm.
sales before and things like that, so I've got a lot of experience just in talking to people. But for me, it's a lot of fun, especially
Right.
doing a podcast. Like, I know a bit about yourself there as well, but you never know what you're going to get. Pretty
Right.
much all my guests that's come on have just been amazing. It's instant conversation. And I know you kind of got a limited time and everything, but you could talk for hours,
Right.
especially when you get that connection. Do you know what? That
Right.
lady, she's lovely. I could talk to her all day, you
That's
know,
right.
and go off on a tangent there. And I think it was brilliant. And the amount of times I've come off a podcast after having 8, 9 clients in a day, mentally exhausted, going, "Do you know, that was brilliant. I've learned something. It was great just having that connection and conversation." I know the irony is we're doing it online, but
Mhm.
it's better than sort of sat there text messaging,
That's right. That's right. We must be careful about making comments about doing communication online because that's exactly where we are.
Yeah. But I think a lot with that, at least it's an actual face-to-face conversation,
Huge
because
difference.
there are so many people that just don't do that. And I
Hmm.
even have clients that they just do it on the phone or whatever, and some just want to do it via message, you know, which I find it can work for some people, but it could, to me, it could be
Yeah,
quite hard.
online is really good, but you do miss the rest of the body, right? You don't see me shoulders below. I don't see you shoulders below. And I had a friend that asked me about this, a guy one time, about doing work online. And we were sitting on the deck, and he's got his legs crossed, and one of his feet is going like this. And I said,
Hmm.
well, online, I definitely would not see that foot. And that foot tells me something about you
Yeah.
and what you're feeling and what you're experiencing right now. So if we were in a room together, I would be noticing that. I would be making a decision. Do I kind of ask you about that or just make a note to myself about that? Because it is significant. It's powerful, but you don't get that when you're doing interactions online like we are doing right now. So often when I'm doing therapy, in this way, I will ask somebody to, tell me what's going on with, what are your hands doing? What's happening, legs and feet? Just so I get a sense of kind of how the rest of you is functioning in this conversation because it's important. It's really
It,
powerful.
it is important, because I've studied body language there as well,
Mhm.
and it makes such a difference when you're in a therapy session, because you can read, once you know what to look for, yourself, you can read people's body language very easily, and you can see how they change if you ask a certain question, where they open up, close up, or whatever it might be there as
Mhm.
well.
Mhm.
I'm so used to working online now that I just obviously just focus on head, shoulders, and maybe
Right.
hands or whatever. That's all I
Mhm.
can work with there as well. And you still get a lot from it there as well. But if you're face to face with somebody, it's 100 times easier.
Yes.
Are they closed off?
Mhm.
Are they turning to the side?
Mhm.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember an adult female that I started working with, and she came in and she sat on the couch, drew her knees right up to her chin, wrapped her arms around her knees. Now, if we'd been online, I probably would not have seen that,
yeah.
right? But she just completely closed herself up into a tiny little package. And that was valuable information about who she was at
Mm.
that time and what she was experiencing. So it is really important to pay attention to the body, valuable
Yeah.
in communication.
And with the podcast, I'm looking to grow it and really expand it, and it's going in that direction. But I've already decided that I'll be doing like online
Hmm.
podcasts, but I will have a podcast studio that I will have guests coming in one to one because I really want that one to one interaction. I really want that. And I've got guests that want to come on, but they're like, I actually really only want to do face to face, and I'm not going to argue with that. That's absolutely fine. We'll see what we can sort out. So yeah, definitely. I think it's really important to have that connection as well. It
Mhm.
just makes such a difference.
Yes, and our children are missing that with their cell phones.
It's see, like I think it was on Instagram. It was like the 90s were about as good as it got, and 80s childhoods, and had a list of all these different things that we did in the 80s. And I was like, I would never swap what we did as kids because we're out on our bikes, getting together. It's
Right.
like the kids down your street. You're all out all the time, and nowadays you see kids and they don't go out. They
They don't
just
go
they're in the
out.
room.
No, history calls the 1940s and 50s the best of times
Yeah,
because kids were out, they were free, they were exploring, they were safe, and everybody in the neighborhood, if you will, was kind
yeah.
of watching out for everybody else's kids. So there was a lot more experimentation taking place that was really healthy for a kid and facilitating social interactions and social growth.
Yeah, I totally agree. And when I look back with the things that we did, it was like you'd see if there's kids up the local park and they're all the same
Mhm.
people, and then you're a part of it there as well. You'd hang around with people, you'd go around knocking people's doors, and then you'd
Right. You'd
accumulate a few
explore.
people to knock on people's doors, and if you're going to go and play like football or
Mhm.
whatever it is there as well. Nowadays, you just didn't, you never unless like a kid's got a play date, other kids are not going to be
But
pretty
most
much
of the
turning up at
time,
the
our
door.
children are really programmed. They're in organized activities from the
Yes.
time that they're preschoolers, right? There's down the street for me is a big field preschool soccer
Yeah.
happens there, right? And I go past that and I think, wow, all right, these kids are programmed from the time they are toddlers all the way up through high school to be engaged in activities. They don't get the downtime that they get bored and have to reflect and figure something out for themselves. They're in organized activities from the time they're in preschool until they graduate from high school. And there's a cost to that.
I think so. I really think so. When I see today compared to the sort of activities and the friendships I had when I was a kid, I'd never swap that. There's no chance. And you feel something like, I don't know if in years to come it go full circle and change again. If it had some sort of effect, I don't know.
Good
Who knows?
question. I don't know if it will change again. That's a very good question. But we're
Yeah.
heading into a completely different type of world with artificial intelligence and giving us tons more free time is the way I'm experiencing it because things happen automatically that I would have taken, half an hour to do now can be done in 2 or 3 minutes. And I kind of look forward to, the robot cleaning my house and doing my cooking and all the laundry and, think of all the free time I'll have then.
I mean, with like obviously, I use ChatGPT a lot, and I'm reading a book on Lee Harvey Oswald, and I typed in there that you recommended this book, but it's actually a bit slow, and it's like a Norman Mailer book, it's the book to read on Oswald, and then it's come back and it says, yeah, the author has designed his time in Russia to be slow. So you get an understanding of his boredom and stuff. And it was just genius. And I
Mhm.
actually
That's
understood.
what an emotional experience. That's great.
I was like, wow, I'm really getting the picture now. But it's just like in the past, I would have had to, look it up, ask somebody for their opinion or whatever. But I've just typed in and it's like, oh, look out for the key moments here. Really look out for how Oswald is
Mhm.
starting to struggle and how he's
Mhm.
realizing that his, USSR utopia is not what he thought it would be.
Yeah, that's great. That's
So there is the pros
brilliant.
and cons to it there as well, obviously.
I like it though. That's brilliant to set the book up for an
Yeah,
emotional experience.
yeah, that has been very helpful as well. So there is obviously the good sides there as well. Maybe it's just that's life and it's changing there. But I think for with what you're doing and in the positive way of making guys realize their feelings and emotions and how important it is. That's going to be timeless. There's never going to be a
It
time
is.
when you're
It's
not going to.
invaluable. And I'm
Yeah,
working on a book for fathers to help them to encourage their sons and educate their sons to remain available to the full range of emotions. So I'm hoping that that will be instrumental in making some changes.
I think that'd be great because I mean, like with like my sons, I want them to exceed whatever I've
Mhm.
achieved, and to be good people there, and to be good partners in the future there, and all that kind of thing. And anything along the way, my experiences, take the good things that I do, learn from the things that I did wrong. But if there's things out there like books like that, educate yourself.
Right,
There's always going to be something in there that you don't know, and you read it, and it's like, oh, that makes sense. All I need to do is
right.
something slightly different, and it could make a big difference.
Very
When do you think
valuable.
that book could be out? When do you think that's likely
So
to come out?
that book I'm hoping will be out by the first of the year. And the current book that I have is called Read, Reflect, Respond, the 3 R's of Growth and Change. And it's a journal book that is unusual
Yeah?
because it has
How
an
come?
essay on one page. And the facing page in journal books, they tend to have lines for people to write responses. I've left the facing page blank
Yeah? How come?
because we store information in terms of not only language, but motion and shape. So you can draw, you can scribble, you can use language to respond, but you can also access parts of your brain that you would not access if you were just narrowed down to writing in words. So I want people to take a deeper dive into their emotional histories because that information is there and you can benefit from it. Sometimes it might even just be the intensity of your pen or pencil on that
Yeah.
page that gives you insight into, oh dear, what I just read has power for me. And now I'm going to be curious about, why did I want to press so hard in order to respond to what I just read? It's got meaning to it. And so I want to use my curiosity to take a deeper dive into what just got triggered in me. So that's why it's different. And that's how it functions to help people understand themselves.
That's great. I think that's a brilliant idea because I've seen so many self-help books and journaling, and you kind of expected lines, but
Right.
it makes
Yeah.
sense. Makes
This is
sense.
very different and it's gotten great feedback because of
Yeah.
that difference. You can
Yeah.
tap into parts of yourselves that you would have not tapped into before.
Definitely, and I always say I'm a big fan of journaling because I always say to clients, you get more out of writing than you do talking, and
Right.
if you're doing what you're to do, they're going to get even more out of that on top of that as well for your book.
Mhm.
And anything else that you want to include. Gloria, I've loved every second talking to you. I could talk to you
I
for
have
hours about it
enjoyed
all.
talking
It's
with
been
you.
great. Thank you. I love what you do. When you started talking about helping guys out, the first thing that thought was it just doesn't seem to be anywhere near that much support out there for men. It just doesn't,
Mhm.
not in this area, not in this mental health area, not specifically with what you're doing,
Right.
which is great. So yeah, it's brilliant what you're doing. Love the conversation. Thank you so much for coming on, Gloria. I really appreciate
You're
your time.
welcome. I've enjoyed it too.
Thank you.